Hello guys, and in this section we are going to talk about what is actually an ORM and ODM. So object relational mapper and object data mapper. Simply put, whatever happens in our database, be it tables, columns, will be regarded as objects in our code. So whatever you have in a database, for example, we have a user table in our database having an ID column, name column, and email column, it will be converted to an object, or it will be regarded as an object in our code. It doesn't have to be a table, so that's object relational mapper will be regarded as tables, and ODM object data mapper are for NoSQL languages that don't regard it as tables. So anything that is in the database will be converted to it as objects, and we could interact with the objects through the code. But what's the benefit though? So before going to the benefit, let's look at a query in our a SQL query, a simple SQL query without any performance, anything. I'm not sure if this performant or not, but let's look at this. Select all from users where ID equals to 1. So what do you assume here? What do you see? Okay, it's a simple string. It makes sense. Select all from users, so it's human readable. But there are several problems with this way of doing it. So it is first error prone. So first it is a string, so you won't have any intelligence that tells you that your thing is working fine. So there you won't know until you execute it that this will be executed. So now this will be time consuming because one, you need to try an error and hopefully you don't mess up anywhere in your string. Another issue will be as well is within the error prone that you could do a SQL injection with it, because when you do this query, it's in a string, you could do a SQL injection, which I have no idea how to do it. Trust me, I don't know how to do it, but I've been hearing about it a lot, right? That there is problem with SQL injection, and we don't want to have SQL injection or any security flaw in our code. Now another thing is, are you able to reuse this component or this string? No, because this string is only meant for users, unless you do the you change it to users to dynamically change towards users to whatever table it's going. But in a sense, this string is not reusable and it is difficult to use across the whole system. Now if it's difficult to reuse, it's difficult to maintain, because now you have lots of SQL query string across your whole project or across your whole code base, which is when there is a change in your database, it is difficult to change or update your SQL query string. Now another thing is, it could get complicated. Now I just showcased a simple SQL string, but it could get very long, and that long string is it's unfathomable. I don't remember that whole string, so it could get complicated in a sense, and you have to figure out how the string works. Unless you have a web UI that checks or verifies that your SQL string is correct. Other than that, I'm sure that it will take a long time to figure out if the complicated SQL string that you are doing is correct or not. So yeah. Now let's look at this. Let's look at how ORM does it, or ODM does it. Now we are regarding the table as an object, so in our code base we'll regard this as an object, and what we'll do here at this moment of time is we are finding the user table based on the ID. Now what's the benefit of this one? One, you could reuse this function or methods. It's easy to reuse it, because now you don't have to worry about SQL string to change across the whole place. But what you could do is just use the .find across the whole place, and if there is any changes, you just have to change the attributes in itself, but nothing else. Other than that, I think you're good to go. Another thing would be, if you've noticed, so I'll make another slide here. I'll jump to another slide here. So here we are searching for email, and here we are searching the name. If you notice here, they are still using the same function or the same method, and then it's still doing the same concept of in here, where we are checking on based on the email, and we'll put an email based on the input we are given from the user. So we could consider this as consistency. Now, wherever there, like, it looks much more better or more beautiful because it's consistent across your code base. Now, if there's any changes, you could change your method quite frequently, quite easily, because it is consistent across the whole project. Another thing would be, again, because it's consistent, it's maintainable. And another one as well, again, repeat, reusable. So it can be reused across the whole project. Now, some ORM concept or ODM concepts. We are going to check that out as well in our Prisma, and I'll just showcase the concept. And if you already understand ORM, so maybe this one is useful. So we have classes or models that maps a table. So a table could be regarded as an object. An object could be an instance of a model or a class. So every model will regard as a table or a collection, depending on if you're using SQL or NoSQL. We have properties within the models that maps with columns and data. So that means that every attribute within the models, it will be regarded as columns in SQL, and if it's data in NoSQL, it will be just data. We have methods that maps with querying data. So anything that is regarding SQL string or whatever NoSQL query you have, it will be regarded as methods, and we will be using methods instead. So an example here is we have a model called user, and user we have it as this one is regarded as the table. And what it has as an attribute or as a column, you could say, is the ID, the name, password, and email. Another thing would be the methods that interact or query or interact with the database will be using methods, and these methods could be find, the one that we have seen before, and find one, which is just finding one particular data within the database. So that would be models, methods, and attributes. So another one, examples of the ORM ODM libraries would be Mongoose. So ODM would be Mongoose. We have Hibernate in Java. I like it. It's my first ORM library that I've used, Hibernate. SQL Alchemy in Python or Django. And then we have Type ORM, which is in the JavaScript. And the new one would be Prisma, and that's the one that we are going to cover in this tutorial, which would be called Prisma. So it's under, or it could be regarded as ORM at the same time ODM, and I'll show you the reason why it is like that. So yeah, that would be example of ORM on ODM libraries. Now another thing is I tried to check some concepts here, like you don't have to, and I'm not covering it, and it's really interesting to read. So that would be called, try to read about regarding active record and data mapper. These are some of the concepts of ORM or ODM. There is something called active record, and there is something called data mapper. So check it out and see what they are, what the differences is, and I think you'll be interested with it. I love reading about it, understanding what their concepts are, and check them out. All right, that will be it. Yeah, the next video or next chapter we're going to cover regarding the project setup. So we are going to initialize our project with based on Express on top with TypeScript, and the next would be we are going to use Prisma. So I hope this helps with the Prisma, or like the ORM ODM concept, and yeah, have a good day, take care.